everyone, Bandit here. Welcome back to the channel. We're back in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and for today's flight we're here in Palm Springs, California in the Cessna Chancellor 414. And for today's flight we're going to feature an in-depth look at the PMS50 GTN750 add-on, payware add-on for the aircraft. There's also a freeware version if you want to try it out, but if you really want to use this properly, the payware version is the way to go. Yeah, so we're going to do a quick flight from Palm Springs to Burbank, California. It's a little less than an hour flight, but today's video will be a little bit long just because there's so much stuff to cover in this GTN750 that yeah, there's a lot of things to go over. We're going to do a missed approach too in Burbank and come around for another approach. So probably a pretty long video, but yeah, definitely worth it if you want to take an in-depth look at this payware add-on. Just to show you the webpage here for it. This is the GTN750. It is probably a pretty common addition or upgrade for a lot of GA aircraft in real life. So it's featured in a lot of aircraft in the simulator. I use it in this aircraft. I use it in the Black Square Baron. I use it in the King Air. You can swap it out in some of the Sobo aircraft as well. Yeah, so it's a great addition. There's a freeware version you can try and the premium version, and it shows the differences here. Just basic functionality with the freeware version, but if you want the Navigraph chart integration, the airways, METAR fuel planning, all kinds of features, BATSIM integration, SimBrief integration, it's all you require the premium version. And definitely worth getting for the functionality of the system. It can be used with lots of aircraft. Just to show you a list, you can see all the aircraft you can use it with. I use it with the Seneca. You can use it. I use it with Black Square King Air, the Baron, and in this case, using it with the Flysimware Cessna 414. So lots of great aircraft to use it with in the sim, and it's very realistic because this is a realistic upgrade for a 414. So the reason I'm using this aircraft too, not that it's one of my favorite aircraft in the sim for GA flying, but is one of the few aircraft where you can actually have dual GTN 750s for the system as well. So makes it a little bit easier to show you a bunch of stuff today. Okay, so yeah, Southwest looks like they just getting ready to go there. So we'll hop in the cockpit. It's pretty hot in Palm Springs here. It's over 40 degrees Celsius. So we're not going to get great performance out of this aircraft today. But yeah, that's the way it goes. So yeah, without further ado, let's get things going. If you're new to the channel, thanks for joining me. Take time, hit the subscribe button, and sign up for notifications, and you'll see videos like this when I put them out in the future. If you're returning, thanks for joining me again. Hope you enjoyed today's look at the 414 and the PMS GTN 750. So let's hop in the cockpit. Okay, let's get things fired up here. First thing I'll do is I'll go to the tablet and make sure the airplane's all configured the way we want it. I got it require for the flight plan here. We'll get that. So SimBrief panel. We got our flight plan. So it's Palm Springs, off 31 right, Palm Springs, Victor 386 to Palmdale, Janny 5, Burbank 408. We need got 2 passengers and we need block fuel 409 pounds. I think we got just over, maybe just under 600 pounds, so we should got lots of fuel for the trip. We've got 2 passengers, so we'll configure that through the tablet here. I'll close the doors up, but we're going to put on the GPU just because I don't want to drain the battery while we're doing lots of checks on the ground here that I normally wouldn't do. Shocks are all removed, we're all ready to go. People, we got 1, 2, 50 pounds of baggage, just about right. And for fuel, we got 600 pounds, just over 600 pounds of fuel. So that looks good as well, 104 gallons. So that configuration looks good. And we'll check our fuel gauges here, and you can see just over 600, 300 aside, so just over 600 pounds, so the fuel looks good. Okay, so we're on ground power, obviously. There's the ground power unit, and put our battery on. and we'll get our alternators in the on position, put our mags on. And normally I wouldn't turn on the avionics until we start the engines, but we're going to delay the start and just go over some of the stuff on the GTN750 here first. So we'll put our avionics on now. Let it come up, and you can see in this configuration we have dual GTN750s. You can have an also configuration with a single GTN and a stock GSN, Sobo GSN with the working title update as well, or you can have no GPS at all, just stock avionics on this aircraft. Okay, so we'll activate our fuel. 103, that's pretty gross. I don't use this very much because there's a good fuel calculation function on the GTN, so I haven't gotten it. Usually all I use this for is just for fuel remaining. I just make sure it's corrected, and then I just usually use it for the fuel burn to set my mixture later on. So we'll just enter that, and I'll put it in pounds. So we got 622 pounds, and that correlates with the gauge pretty good. And then once we get going, we'll see the fuel flows left and right engine, so I'll use it for that. Okay, so that's set up. Okay, so let's start off looking at the GTN and some of the features on there. So we'll go to the flight plan page first, and we have no flight plans. We've got a message saying no departure, no arrival airport. So you can now enter in all your flight plan manually, or another function that's recently added is you can go to the menu and you can import your flight plan, and we can import from SimBrief, and I put the flight plan in SimBrief. So take a few seconds, press OK to start, and you can see we got loading flight plan KPSP to Burbank, which is what I want. And you can see it's going to load it in. So we've got Palm Springs going to PSP Victor 386 to Palmdale. There's all the waypoints on that airway, and you can see we hit Palmdale. And then from Palmdale it's going to Janney via the Janney 5 Burbank, and that's what we have flight plan as well. And then you can see the arrival. We'll look at those a little further along on the trip there, but that looks pretty good. We go to the map page and zoom out and just kind of make sure it looks roughly makes sense. So we've got KPSP, and we're going to PSP, and then the Victor 386 goes up to Palmdale, and then the arrival into Burbank. So that looks pretty much what we're expecting. Okay, so the flight plan is loaded. Another feature of this aircraft, there's so many features on this, I'm not going to be able to cover them all. I'll cover as many as I can, but yeah, it's a very feature-rich addition to the sim. It's not cheap. It's 75 euros if you want the full premium edition. I recommend, if you want to try it out, try the free edition. You're going to get very basic functionality. No SimBrief or Navgraph integration, no weather functions. For example, if you want to look at the weather here in Palm Springs, we can just select KPSP, so Palm Springs Airport, and we can look at the weather data. In Palm Springs, the winds are variable, 6 knots, 10 miles, 44 degrees Celsius. Wow, that's hot. 2977. We'll set that. Both sides here. Yeah, and yeah, pretty hot here. So yeah, you're not going to get that functionality with the basic edition, but you're going to be able to try it out and do basic navigation, and then for the premium edition, what I recommend is you can do a yearly subscription for 25 euro, and I'd recommend to do that. And then if you decide within the first year to upgrade to the premium edition lifetime for 75 euro, you only actually have to pay 50 to do the upgrade, so it's the same price. So if you want to try it out, I recommend doing it for a year and then doing the upgrade if you want to keep using it. I definitely think it's a great addition to the sim, and the developer does a great job keeping this up to date. It seems like every 2 weeks there's features added or fixes to the system, and yeah, they keep regularly updating this software. So definitely a great addition to the sim. There is another one you can get. It's a TDS. I think it's TDS. GTN750 is an NXI version, so a little bit more modern version. but it is more of a Garmin emulator that you can integrate into the sim. You can't do the NavGraph chart integration and SimBrief integration, but it's a very functional GPS. I've seen it used in other people's videos, and if you want a more probably true to life GTN feel, it might be a good way to go if you're trying to do some training for that, because I think it's an actual Garmin emulator that's integrated into the sim. So something to look at as well. The price points are fairly similar too, so I think it's about just over $50 for that one. So another option if you want it, but I really like this GTN750 by PMS50. It's been a great addition to the sim. Okay, so let's take a look at another feature, and I'll do it on this one here. And we'll go to another way to get to this page. If you go to the home button, it'll take you to the main page. And in this one, we're going to use a utility, which is the checklist function. Not all aircraft have checklists. There's a bunch available on the PMS50 site, but and if you go to the Discord, some other people have posted checklists for their aircraft as well. But it's not available for every aircraft, and you can probably take a checklist from their site and probably modify it to work for any aircraft and just add it in yourself. I haven't tried that yet, but that might be something you could try to do. Anyway, I'll get in close to the GPS here and we can take a look at this. So let's, normally you wouldn't be able to do this with it powered off. You'd have to go to the tablet and do the initial before starting engines checklist, but we'll do it since we have it here, we'll do it. So the cabin door is closed, control locks are stowed, seatbelts are secure, fuel is on the main tanks, so we'll put it on the main tanks. Landing gear is down. Throttles propeller mixture, so we'll put the mixtures full forward, throttles full forward, or propellers full forward, sorry. Throttles, just check those and I'll just crack them about 1/8 of an inch. All circuit breakers are in, and you can pull circuit breakers on this aircraft, so just make sure they're all in. Not all the circuit breakers are modeled, but quite a few are, so circuit breakers are in. Clock time is 0, so if you go down to elapsed time, and it's already 0, but you can 0 it if you need to, so I'm going to put it back on the time. Prop sync is off. It's off. Battery switch on. We've already got it on. Gear position lights are green, 3 green. And fuel totalizer is set, so we've set it, and it matches with our fuel. And parking brake is set. So that's the before start checklist. You go to the next checklist, and it'll be before starting check engines. So propeller will be clear, magnetos are all on, and then it'll be engine start. So that'll be that checklist. Okay, so we may as well start up and get some AC going on this airplane. One thing this airplane doesn't have, like the Baron and the King Air have, is a cockpit temperature gauge. The only way to check the temperature is, well, right now that's your outside air temperature, so it's well over 40. But the only way to check the temperature in the cabin is to go and check it on here under environmentals, and you can see, oh, why is this is strange, the cabin climate. Oh, because I do have the air conditioner on. There we go. Must have left it on from last time, because this remembers the position of the switches. So the last time I flew this, it was on, so we don't need it super cold. So it's right now showing 50 degrees, but that's the only place you get the cabin temperature. That's another thing about this aircraft, it remembers your settings, so I guess we can run the, I didn't know we could run the air conditioner on ground power, but you can see it's light is on there, so air conditioner is on, so that's nice, we can run that on ground power. So let's do the first engine start. So we'll turn our nav lights on, and our beacon on, and yeah, clear to the right, clear to the left, and I'll just get a better view here so we can prime the right engine, and throttle is cracked, and we'll hit the starter for the right engine. You can see it cranking over there, and there we got a good light off. We'll check the temperatures and pressures coming up. We'll set the RPM up to 1,000 RPM. see our right alternator light's gone out, so the alternator's kicked on. And we'll leave it at 1,000, and that's a good start. Temperatures and pressures are all coming up in the green. Prime the left. Or so we'll get rid of the ground power, which is on the left side here now. So I'll just call up the chart. See the temperature is getting a little bit higher now. And yeah, so we'll go to the settings, get rid of the GPU. And we will clear to the left, prime the left side. And we'll hit the starter. And a good start on there. Let the RPM come up, watch our T's and P's. And then we'll match them both at 1,000 RPM. And temperatures and pressures are coming up. Cylinder head temperature on this one will warm up slowly. So that all looks good. So we've got a good start. So we'll go to the next checklist. Next would be avionics on. We've already put that on. Next would be taxi checklist. So we'll check the brakes and the flight instruments on the taxi checklist. So we'll go back to map page here. And before we taxi out, while we're just sitting here, what I'll do is I'll cover off the map functions of the GTN, and we'll look at that before we get going. And then I won't have to talk about those in the air, because there's a lot of stuff to cover with that setup. So we'll do that first, and then then we'll taxi out and get up on our way. Okay, so I'll zoom in here and get a little bit closer to the two GPSs here, and we'll talk about the map. So I've got the maps selected on here. Go to the home button, it'll take you to the main page where you can select all your items on here. And we'll go back to map mode. And then within map mode, you have a menu button down here. And you can see right now we're in terminal mode, but for the departure, we're going to want to be in GPS mode. So we have our CDI button down here. So before I go look at the menu items, we'll select CDI and we'll go to GPS. So you'll see over here, and I flop back and forth. So we got the nav flag off because we have nothing tuned up in the BOR. But once I go CDI, GPS, and nav flag goes away. Now it's going to be tracking the GPS function of the for the GPS. Okay, go to the menu, and you can see there's lots of items. So you can choose between track up. I keep it track up. You got north up, heading up. You can change the fields. So the fields are these 4 items in the corner, and it allows you to have 4 items on display. And usually what I do is I have, for this one with the dual GTNs, I have different map modes set up and different fields set up on my 2 maps. But there's also a function where you can have multiple field pages up here. So right now I'm on page 1, and I can cycle through the different pages. So right now I've got direct track, wind, distance to next waypoint, and ground speed. And if you just click on the spot between GPS and terminal here, you go over to the next field page where you can have different functions. So I've got track in this one, distance to the next waypoint. Then I've got top of descent point for time and vertical speed required at top of descent. So you can have cycle through different things. This one here, I've got my direct track, the actual track I'm doing, ground speed, distance to the next waypoint. So there's various things you can have up in here, and to change those, you go into the menu items. First of all, let's talk about where to select the number of fields, because I have 3 on this one, but this one here, if I go to map page, I only have the 1, I don't have any, so there's no other fields up here. So where you select that is you go into the settings, system, setup, and you go to the options, and then you have number of map fields, and I have 3 on this one, and this one I just have the 1. And you can see in the setup there's lots of different things. You can have traffic data, show traffic on the ground, traffic refresh rates, if you want your messages and system to pop up, all kinds of different functions on here, winds on the ground, map heading line, track vector length, shows the track vector ahead of the airplane, map runway lines. There's all kinds of functions. You just kind of play with them. Reserve fuel, transponder defaults, type of fuel, units of fuel. Yeah, so there's all kinds of setup options in there. So we'll go back to the map page here. And yeah, so that's your field you can have set up there. I chose 3 fields, and then you can just have cycle through them, and the way you change your fields is you go down to menu and you go change fields. And on this one here, I have the actual track, but I can go through and I can select something else. Fuel flow. There's so many in here, and you can set up different pages for different scenarios. So my first page, I got my basic navigation page. My next one is I set up for top of descent when I want my top of descent information. So that's that. Other menu stuff here, you can select what you want displayed, but if you select everything, it's going to be very, very cluttered. On here, you can select NEXRAD radar, you can show terrain, or topo. So this one here I have on terrain, this one here I have on topo, but I can get rid of topo. You can show your traffic. Again, you can show your NEXRAD over satellite, over radar, but there's nothing to see today, so I'm not going to select it. You can have all your airspace, airports, intersections. That starts cluttering up the map quite a bit. Check your map level of detail, more or least. And yeah, so show your constraints. So this one I have for basic navigation. I have topo with traffic, airports, VORs, and constraints. And on this one here, I have terrain with traffic, and I have nothing else, just to declutter the map to make it less cluttered. So I can have a look at just airways and stuff on here. So yeah, so you can set up your map different ways, and that's it for that. So yeah, so that's the map functions, and we'll take a look at some of the other functions once we get airborne. So again, you go to the home page, you got map. We'll take a look at a few of these before you go into. We got traffic. So this is your traffic page. You can have your traffic overlay on the map, but you can also go to a dedicated traffic page. You can zoom in and zoom out, and it'll show any traffic. I got FSLTL traffic running, so hopefully we'll see some traffic when we get going. Back to home. You got your terrain map here, and so this is the same thing over here, and you can see now this shows you what your terrain is showing up on here. So if I zoom out, you can see everything is red on the continental U.S. except for this little lake just by Palm Springs, but it's showing everything's red because we're within 500 feet of terrain. And then between 500 and 1,000 it's yellow, between 1,000 and 1,500 it's green, and anything above 1,500 it'll go to black. So if there's no terrain within 1,500 feet of your aircraft, it'll all be black. So it's a nice situational awareness for this aircraft. So that's why I keep terrain on one side, but it's easy to flip back and forth. If you want to see terrain, you're cruising along, just go to the home button, click on terrain, and then you'll have your terrain map up, and then you can see the terrain around you. Nice function to have. Back to the home page, you got weather. Basically, the only thing functional is the weather. You can use the stock Asobo weather radar. It's not great, but it does show up weather on here if you have it. And like I said, you can also overlay on your map the NEXRAD weather. So that's available if you want to use it. That's the only weather function. Charts, we'll get into charts, but what I'll do is I'll get the charts going up on this side. And you have to have an Avgraph subscription to use the charts. And we'll start off with Palm Springs. So we'll select our airport, Palm Springs, KPSP. And for this here, we're going to need, for the info, we'll select the ground chart. I'm going to show you where we are. So we'll zoom in here. So we're Palm Springs. We're down here in the GA ramp. And we're going to be taking off 31 right, which is the GA runway. It's about just under 5,000 feet. The airliners will take off on the left side here, so it's just a short taxi. We'll just go up here as calm winds. We'll just hold short, do a run up short of 31, and then we'll depart out of there. Nice easy taxi. The departure we're going to be doing is the Cathedral one, so we'll select that one. Go to full screen, and then we'll might as well brief that while we have it up, and then we can compare. We'll load it up in the procedures, and then we'll compare the waypoints. So the departure is going to be the Cathedral 1 out of Palm Springs. Transition altitude is 1,800 feet. The routing off of runway 31, left and right. We'll just zoom in, make it a little bit bigger. So 31 left to right, climb a heading 310 across PSP 268, then right turn direct Palm Springs. So 310 across the radial 268 from Palm Springs, right turn back to Palm Springs. Then routing after that is climbed by the PSP 104 to MRUD, then a right turn back to the PSP VOR. If you don't get to your MEA by the PSP VOR, you can hold as published until you get to your MEA. And the reason they have this departure set up like this is because you're in the Coachella Valley and the terrain around here is really high. Look, we have 12,100. We have a fix over here by Big Bear of 11,191 feet, so pretty high terrain. The MEA for this airway is 9,000 feet, so we need to get up to at least 9,000 feet before we can head off on our airway. So, and with the performance in this temperature, we're never going to get hit Palm Springs VWAR the first time. So we're going to have to do this procedure where we climb up in the valley and go down. You can see the Coachella Valley here. So it's nice big valley to do your climb in, and then we'll head out on our airway. So that's the procedure. So now let's load the procedure, and that's the next page we can look at is the procedure page. So we've already got our arrival loaded in, but we're going to load in our departure. So we make sure we have our airport in Palm Springs. We're going to pick the Cathedral 1. Okay, you see all the waypoints associated with that. So it's off of runway 13. And, so we need to do 31 right. So 31 right. So off of runway 31 right to the PSP 268 radial. And then it's to PSP, then back to Emerald, then back to PSP. And you can see that mapped out here. And that's pretty much exactly what we want. So we can load that in. And you can see we're going from runway 31 to the first fix, which is a 268. So we go back to the map page, and you can see our track of 312 is the required track. And yeah, so altitude-wise, there's no altitude. So let's say in our clearance, SoCal gave us, you're cleared to 10,000 feet on the Cathedral 1, squawk 1, 2, 3, 4. And so, yeah, so that will put in 10,000 feet. We'll dial that in here. Our altitude selector, 10,000. Our course is going to be 341. And we'll put that in. And our squawk is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. We'll enter that. Backspace. 1, 2, 3, 4. Enter. So we see our squawk in. We'll put the transponder on before we taxi. Now let's look at some of the other functions while we're here. This is your nav-com interface here. So because we have two GTNs, you have COM1 over here and nav1, and then over here we have COM2 and nav2. And let's say we wanted to listen to the ATIS. Well, there's lots of ways we can do that. So we can go to find out what the information is. Now, this is what makes this so nice is just the reality of using your Navigraph charts on here, because a lot of times I'm using Navigraph app on my other monitor, but here it's all built in, so I'm getting all the functionality. The immersion of this is really good to be able to use everything on here, never having to leave the sim to do anything. So let's figure out how to get our ATIS on COM2 and how we're going to listen to it. So if I go back to the main page, or you go hit the back button or go to the open page, I go to waypoint information, airport, and we still have Burbank in here as our destination, but we pick Palm Springs, KPSP, and now we can go to frequencies, and we can look up the ATIS as 2465. If I click on that, it puts it into the standby. Now I go back to my map, and then I can just click the top one to transfer it into KPSP ATIS. Let's get our ATIS. Oh, but we can't hear it because it's on COM2. So my audio panel, I'm only monitoring number 1 right now. If I hit this, I'm going to monitor number 2. There's Palm Springs ATIS.
Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 45.
45.
10. Altimeter 29.75. Visual
975.
runway 1 right and visual runway tree 1 left in use. Landing and departing runway tree 1 right and runway tree 1 left. DFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions.
Okay, they're using 3-1 left and right, so got 2975, 3-1 left and right, so I think that's good. Yeah, so this is your comm panel. It's nice and handy to have with the both GTNs. If you're using a another version of this. So you're using a single GTN with a stock Asobo GNS 530, for example. Your COM2 would be over on the GNS. So, and if you have the no GPS, then you'd have your comm panels up here with the aircraft. Yeah, so that's everything there. So I think we have everything set. So the approach, we briefly approached, we looked at the approach we're going to do. We've looked at we got everything set up, our autopilot, got our track, altitude, all set. Might as well put our heading on there as well, runway heading. You can see on the map, there's a heading line as well that shows your heading, so it's nice to be able to see it on the map as well. Okay, yeah, so I think everything is ready to go. So let's go back to our checklist. So utilities, back to our checklist. So we have to do our taxi checklist. We're going to check our brakes and check our flight instruments. Okay, I think we're ready to taxi out. So let's do that, and then we'll do a run up and get up on our way. Okay, it's clear to the left. We'll avoid that truck there. Clear to the right. Get our taxi light on, get our parking brake off, a little bit of power. Good thing we have air conditioning in this airplane. Can't imagine 45 degrees. And compass is turning. Instruments all look good. Our brakes, and the brakes are working good. So the winds are calm, so we'll just come to the hold short point here, and we'll just do our run up here. I don't think there's any other GA traffic around. Two airliners over there getting ready to go. So we'll just hold out here, get the parking brake on, get taxi light off. Okay, we'll go down and we'll continue with our checklist. So brakes were checked, flight instruments were checked, and we're going to do our run up. Okay, so throttles, we'll have to get up to 1700 RPM, so we'll do that first. 1700 RPM we're looking for here. Just making sure we're not creeping ahead on the brakes. There's 1700 RPM. Next we're going to do our left and right flow lights. So there's hydraulic flow lights here. And when you're at idle, they can be on because the pumps aren't generating enough flow. But that's your only hydraulic indications, and they're both extinguished. So those are good. Next we're going to check our alternators. The way you check that is you come down to the alternator gauge, and you have your gauge here, left and right. So we're left. And if I shut off the left alternator, it should go to 0. If I go to the right, it should take all the load, and then when I turn the left alternator back on, the right load drops to normal, and I go back to the left alternator and it shows normal load. Then I do the same thing for the right, shut it off, it goes to 0, and then I go back to the left alternator, it's taking the entire load, put the right alternator back on, there the left alternator load drops to normal, and the right alternator is normal. So that's the alternator check complete. Vacuum system check. Check our vacuum gauge here, and it's above the red, and there's no red and operative lights. Magnetos check. So we've got 1700 RPM. We're going to go check our magneto switches, and we're going to do each one. And we're looking for, I think it's less than 150 drop in the RPM. So left engine, left mag. Small drop on the left engine. It's good. Bring it back up. Left engine, right mag. Again, small drop. Bring it back up, and right engine, left mag, small drop on the right engine, and the right mag, and again a small drop. So that's our magnetos checked. Propellers, so we're just going to feather the propellers, and we're going to watch for the RPM to bleed off on the propellers as they go to feather. So there's the right side. Good. And there's the left side. take it right to feather, and you can see it drops right off. Okay, so we'll bring those back up to full. So propellers are checked. Flight instruments are all checked. And throttle's back to 1,000 RPM. Okay, there's 1,000 RPM. And you can see where those low hydraulic flow lights come on. And they go out as you get up a little bit higher in your RPM. Okay, so that's the next checklist. Next will be before takeoff checklist. So fuel quantity, we need 400 and change, so we've got just under 600, so that's good. You can see up here, fuel selectors are on the main tanks. Emergency cross speed shutoff is down, you can see that right there. Cowl flaps are open. Yeah, we're definitely going to need those open today. Should have had those open earlier, but they were in the position I last used them. So cowl flaps are open because it's so hot in here. But we check our temperatures, and right now cylinder temperatures aren't too bad. They're in the green. But as we add more power, they definitely would be getting pretty hot. Okay, trim. We're going to set our trim for takeoff. Wing flaps, we just want them up for takeoff, and you can see they're up. Prop sync is off. Flight instruments, avionics set. So we've got CDI to GPS. We've got our track set of 312. Oh no, we want 312. So 312. And might as well put our heading in there too. There we go. You can see they're lined up with the runway. Okay, that's good. So flight instruments are set 10,000 feet. Yeah, that's all good. Lights we'll get when we head out. Cabin doors and windows are closed. Pressurization set. So let's go to the pressurization panel. So we're going to be at 16,000 feet is our final altitude. So we'll just put it like 16.5 for the pressurization panel, and that's good. And we want to make sure our pressure switch isn't pressurized and that our dump valves are closed. It's good. Pressurization set. Interior panel is clear except for the air conditioning, and we need that today. Fuel pumps, we'll put them on high. So there's a few fuel pumps, we'll put them both in high. Flight controls, check. We'll just check those real quick. And flight controls are good. Seatbelt shoulder harnesses are good. And that's it. So next is going to be the takeoff checklist. So we'll get the lights, we'll set takeoff power, and we'll mixtures are full forward, so they'll all be done. So we'll check those off because we're not going to do those on the roll. And then we'll check our engine instruments, and then at our minimum control speed, we'll do a speed check. So that's the red line right here, and we'll make sure our both altimeters are good, and then we'll rotate at 90 knots. So we'll do those checklists, and then next will be the after takeoff checklist after that. So we'll go back, put the other map up here, we'll zoom in, and then we can kind of see the terrain, how it's looking for our departure. So I think we're ready to go. So we'll put our altimeter alt reporting on, get our landing lights, strobe lights on. And we're not going to need our pitot heat today because it's so hot here. We're not going to need it at all, so it'll be nice and easy. It's clear to the right, clear to the left. Yeah, and I think we're ready to go. Okay, parking brake is released. set. Temperatures and pressures are all in the green. There's our airspeed is checked for 90 knots. Okay, there's 90 knots. We'll rotate. Positive rate, gears up. Apply our track, and I'm gonna try to get the speed above the blue line there, which is about 112. We'll get our autopilot on. Well, looking pretty good. Tripped up pretty good. So we'll get our autopilot on. Flight director, yaw damper are all on. And you can see we're just pitch and roll, so we'll select nav. And we'll go indicated airspeed. And I'll just do it at 115 as a good climb. And that keeps us above our blue line, which is our best single engine climb speed. So yeah, looks pretty good. I'll bring the power back now to the manifold pressure to the green, tracking out on our track. Bring the prop back to 2500 RPM. Check our gear is up and our flap gauge is hard to see in this one, but the flaps are up. Now we can, we're tracking out, we're climbing up to 10,000 feet. Not a great climb performance in this temperature, but it's a good thing we're not full of fuel and full of people. And you can see the terrain kind of getting more, we're getting higher here. The terrain's looking a little bit better for our departure here, so looks good. So we'll go back to utilities, checklist, and we'll get our after takeoff checklist. So gear is up, yaw damper is on. Auxiliary fuel pumps, we can go to low. So they are low. Ice protection we don't require. Landing taxi light, we'll leave the landing lights off. Prop sync is off. That's our after takeoff checklist complete. So we're just continuing the climb up here. We're coming up to the PSP 268. Make the right turn back to Palm Springs. And I'll go home and put the map up here as well. So you can see the terrain now as we're going to make our turn and go down the Coachella Valley here to get our altitude so we can continue en route. So that's nice having both GTNs, but if you want to take a quick look at the terrain, usually I keep it in topo. If I have a single one here, I just go to the home page and I just call up terrain. So home page, call up terrain map, and then you can see it over here. Go back to our regular map. Yeah, so you can see we're not climbing great here, so we're definitely going to need that extra turn out to Emerald there and then back to the BUR before we can get up, because we need to be at least 9,000 before we can continue on that airway. Okay, our track now is 101, so we dial up our track there. Okay, so we're tracking out 101. Might as well put my heading out there too. Continuing the climb. Let's hop outside and see how it looks here. One thing about Palm Springs, all the windmills, they have hundreds of these windmills. There's the airport there we just departed off of. The scenery is pretty good for Palm Springs. This is pretty much what it looks like. Lots of desert with little patches of condos and houses and golf courses. And the only thing that's green is the golf courses. So it's pretty realistic. We're going to fly out to the BUR, which is out this direction, and then continue down to do our turn and come back, pick up our airway. Yeah, so up here, this is the San Bernardino Valley heading up to LA. This is Big Bear. There's a big resort up here, a ski resort, and yeah, pretty high mountain. And we're going to fly north of the San Bernardino Mountains on the way into Palmdale, BUR, on the way into Burbank. Okay, we're back inside. We're coming up to the BUR. We're going to make our outbound turn. Now, one thing we can do, so you got your message approaching PSP. One thing we can do is once we get to a safe altitude, so once we're about 10,000 feet or so, we really don't need to fly all the way out to Emerald. We can go back, we can just make a right turn inside this and fly back to the Palm Springs VOR. So we can turn early back to Palm Springs. There is an issue with that though, on this departure. If I go to the flight plan page, you'll see for this departure there is 2 Palm Springs fixes. So we go to Palm Springs now, which we are, then we go to Emerald and then back to Palm Springs. So if I'm outbound here and I go direct to Palm Springs, I'm not sure if the real GTN750 does this, but it's confused as to which Palm Springs we're going to. So even if I select this one and go direct to, it's going to cycle back to the first Palm Springs, and then it's going to try to go to Emerald again. But there's a way we can deal with that. So we'll have a look at that once we get a little bit higher, a little further out here. So right track now to Emerald, it's going to be 106, so we'll set our track to 106. Yeah, this HSI doesn't automatically update your track for you whenever it updates in the GPS. You have to manually update your track every time. See if we have any traffic around us right now. So traffic, yeah, there is some traffic. Guy out there, he's about 24 miles away. So if we go to the main map page, that should show up if I zoom out. Yeah, so a cool feature if you want to see how far that traffic is, you can just take your cursor and you can touch the traffic and it gives you a little cursor point, and then now in pan mode it shows you how far that is away. So that's on a bearing of 169 for 26 miles. So it's a good way to find out how far things are away. See the thermal VOR, if you want to see how far that away is. Look at thermal, that's 18 miles away. So yeah, nice feature to be able to do that. Get back to the main map page. Once you're in pan mode, it's going to stay like in this position. It's not going to track the airplane. So to get back, you can hit the back, or you can go to the home button and hit map page, and then you're back. Once you see the fields, then you know you're in your normal track up navigation mode. So we'll zoom back in. So let's see, how's our altitude going? We're almost at, once we hit 10,000 feet, we'll go tighten this turn up and we'll come back in. So it's looking pretty good. I'll get my landing light off now. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. See if there's another checklist we can do. There might be a climb checklist. So 10,000 feet, so 10 for 9. We can check with SoCal, and they say they've cleared us up to 16,000 now is our flight planned altitude. So we're up to 16,000. Once we hit 10,000, we'll make the right turn back to Palm Springs. Okay, so let's look at. Just gonna look at something on here. Oh, checklist, yeah. So utilities checklist. So next checklist, climb checklist. So power is set for the climb. So we're in the green. Mixtures we leave full. Cowl flaps we leave them closed. Temperatures are looking pretty good in the green there. Cabin air temperature, we probably don't need the air conditioner on anymore. So I'm going to shut it off. And I'm going to leave the heat off. Because the outside air temperature right now is 20, so that's probably a good temperature. Check the cabin air temperature on the tablet there a little later. Pressurization is set, so we see we're pressurizing. There's our cabin altitude is 4,000. Differential is good. Cabin is not really climbing there, so that's good. Oxygen is in the green. Good. And altimeters, we're not going above, so we just leave them where they are. So that's our check. So now we're coming in, so let's tighten up the turn. So let's go direct to Palm Springs. So I'm going to leave this page up here, just so you see what happens. So go back to the flight plan page, and we'll go, now I'll choose the second Palm Springs, which you think would cycle correctly after, but I go direct to. So we'll go direct to Palm Springs. We'll activate direct to. You see it does the turn, and it starts heading towards Palm Springs. But just let me zoom in a little bit closer here. turn, but then it's going to cycle back to MRUD. So if we go to the flight plan page here, you can see it's going direct to Palm Springs, but it's gone, even though I selected this one, it's going to the one before, and then it's going to cycle to MRUD after that. You can see here based on the line, magenta line shows going to Palm Springs, but then once it starts to turn early because it's too tight to fly over the VR, so it's going to go back to MRUD and then back out to Palm Springs. We don't want that. So how can we fix that? Well, the easiest way I found to fix it is to activate the leg from MRUD to Palm Springs, which is just this leg here, MRUD to Palm Springs. And then, so we'll let it finish the turn, and then I'll go back to the flight plan, and then I'll select this Palm Springs, and then I'll activate the leg, and then it should activate the leg and get rid of this portion to go back to MRUD here. Once we roll out on the heading towards Palm Springs. Another thing you could do is you could activate the next leg, and then you can just kind of heading select it to Palm Springs till you get over top, and then pick up your GPS track after that. So now we're heading back to Palm Springs, but I want to activate the leg before it starts to turn back to MRUD. So I'll click activate leg. Okay. And now you see the magenta is activated to Palm Springs. So then it's going to go off on our airway up to after that. So that's one way to do it. It's just getting back on the track because we're a little left of track there. So once we're back on track, it's going to go to Palm Springs, and then we'll continue on. Got some traffic to the right there. How far is he? He's 10 miles away, so it shouldn't be an issue. Looking good. We'll continue to climb out here. While we're climbing out, getting up to 16,000 feet, we'll put in our track. So our track now is 297. So we'll get that in here. Okay, there we go. And we can do our heading. And I'll show you where I got the airway temperature. So another feature on the GTN, if you have an Navgraph subscription, is you go to Utilities, and there's another map mode in Utilities, and this is where you can access all the charts through Navgraph. And there's different charts you can access. Go to the menu. I got the IFR low, but you can access the high, world map, the road map, the satellite map, VFR map, all from the Navgraph subscription. Go back to the low, and then you can have it in night mode, and you can scale 1 or 2. I keep it on scale 2, and then I'll go okay, center of the aircraft, and I'll zoom in. And now you can see we're picking up the airway. See the plane here on the map, and this is the Victor 386 that we're taking, and you can see the MEA is flight level 090. So that's where I got the MEA for the airway there. That's looking good, and you can keep that map up there if you want as a secondary map. So that's on your Utilities map, and there you go. Recenter so it tracks the plane. So that's 15 for 16. Up outside, take a look. Mount San Jacinto there, take a cable car up there, great views, great place to cool off on a 46-degree temperature day, that's for sure. And then Big Bear's up here, great elevation too, great place to cool off. There's a lake up here, ski resort, yeah, beautiful area. So, nice place for if you're living in California, you'll ski in the winter here. Okay, so we're coming up to Palm Springs. Yep, we're picking up our track outbound on the Victor 386, track 331, so we'll set that. And we're heading, just leveling off, and so let's set our cruise power. So the cruise today, I'm going to use 2300 on the propeller RPM. That set, and then I'll use 3400 on the manifold pressure. at our mixtures. So basically I got the mixtures there, they're still at full. I'm going to watch the EGT here, and I'm going to use my fuel flow, and I'll just show you real quick here the chart I use. It's a chart that comes with the Chancellor there, and I think I can find it. Performance, yep. Okay, so we're pretty close to 15,000 feet. The outside air temperature is 5 degrees, pretty close to 5 degrees. It's pretty close to 0, so I'm going to use the 5-degree chart there. And yeah, so we use this chart, 2300 RPM, 34 manifold pressure. So that's going to give us true airspeed of 206 knots, and I want 262 for the fuel flow. So I'm going to want 131 either side for the fuel flow. So I'll bring the mixtures back. So mixtures back, and I'm going to bring them back, and I'm going to watch my EGT as it increases here, and I'm going to bring this back to 131 a side, and I'm going to watch the peak, and then it's going to go a little bit above peak, and I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to bring it back even lower just to keep the temperature back. So just slightly under 131. So we hit peak, so we're lean at peak now, and that's pretty close. So that's a good fuel flow. Temperatures are good, and you can see here we're actually doing a little bit better. We're doing about 223 true airspeed. So that's good. So that's our mixture lean. So let's go back to our checklist. Next checklist. Now it's our cruise. So cruise power set. Mixtures are lean. Propeller sync is on, and pressurization, and that looks good. So 400 feet, max differential, cabin altitude. So that looks good. So that's our next checklist. Next is going to be the approach and descent checklist. Yeah. So now we're cruising along, and I'll go to another page here. So if I go to my, actually on this map here, I have some information, which is nice information to have. So back to map. So this one here, I have the field distance to destination. So we got 146 miles to Burbank on our flight plan, and we got 35 minutes to go. And yeah, so that's going to be our estimated time en route and to destination. And we got 50 seconds to our next waypoint. So that looks good. So it's nice having both information, but again, you can set that up as one of your panes here for your field panes as information there. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our approach and our arrival, and we're going to look at some of the features like the VNAV coming into Burbank. So yeah, that's what we're going to look at next. It's a pretty busy flight. I think we're not going to be pausing here. There's lots of stuff to look at, so we'll keep going as we're doing things here. So yeah, let's we've got the arrival already loaded, so we'll load in the approach, and then we'll look at that information, and then we'll set up the VNAV functionality. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so we'll get back to our GTNs here, and what I'll do is I'll go to the charts on here, and now we'll get the split page. Now we'll pick up Burbank, KBUR. So the info page, we're going to want the airport. We're going to be landing on runway 8. So we're going to be coming around for runway 8, and then we're going to park up here. So we're going to be coming on here, exit the left here, and then park in there. So that's what we're going to be doing. The arrival will be the Janny 5. Take a look at that real quick. So we're picking it up via Janny. So zoom in here. So we're going to, there's Palmdale there, and then we're picking it up by Janny. So Janny to Palmdale. So the restriction for us is going to be 8,000 at Janny, 8,000 at Puck, 7,000 or above at Elmer, and 6,000 hard at Wabbit. I can see a theme here. Elmer, Wabbit must be going into Burbank. Warner Brothers. Okay, yeah, and then the approach links up at Wabbit there, so that's what we're going to do. So that we'll load that in. We can verify that, so we can go to the flight plan here. We'll just verify that we have those loaded in. So there's the Janny 5, and we're going to Janny, hard at 8,000, pocket 8,000, Elmer 7 or above, Wabbit, and then a manual sequence. So that's expect vector, so you can see that expect vector is manual sequence for runway 8. So that's all good there. So all that is verified. Next thing is going to be the approach, and we're going to do the RNAV or RNAV Yankee runway 8. So we'll bring that approach up, and we haven't loaded that in, so that's the next feature we're going to look at, is loading up procedures. So we can go to our procedures page. There's different ways to load it, but I usually use the procedure page, and we'll go to approach, and then we're Burbank. We're going to select the approach, which is the RNAV Yankee 8, and we're going to do it by the Wabbit transition, and there's all our waypoints, and you can see how it looks, and now we can do a nice comparison here with the two GTNs. So we've got Wabbit at 6,000, and you can see Rabbit, and then it goes to Nibby, and ZMAP. We got ZMAP, then we got Yabern, and we've got, see that in there, MV. I don't see Yabern in there. Where's Yabern? Oh, there it is there. Yep, Yabern. We've got Himby, Yabern, Westkey, and runway 8, and then the missed approach is climbed to 1,200 feet. Yep, you can see that there, and then right turn 4,600 to Costi, and then Yoli, and then hold as publish. And when you compare the two, you can see it comes in like that, left turn straight in, and then the missed approach goes out to the right, and then the Costi, and then out to Yoli, and then hold as publish, and that all looks the same, and the waypoints are all good, so that's good. So now we can load that approach, and then we see that shows up in our flight plan. So we got Wabbit with the manual sequence, and then the approach is the RNAV Yankee, and there's Rabbit again, 6,000, 5,100 above at Neighbor, so we can verify those. It's 5,100 above, yep. ZMEP is 4,200 above, MB is 34, and CMEP is 42, MB is 34, yep, Wyburn is 3,000, right there, and then Westkey is 2,700, so those are all good. So all the waypoints are looking good, so we've got that in there. So the next thing we can do is look at another feature now, and I'm going to put it on this side because we want to be able to use the VNAV. So the first fix we have to plan for on our arrival. So if I go back to the arrival here, is Janny at 8,000. So we go to VNAV. Let's make sure everything's looking good out here. So we go to VNAV. We'll select a VNAV target of 8,000. MSL, we'll do 1,000 feet per minute. We'll plan our descent. 1 mile before, and we'll pick Janny. And you can see it's got all the altitudes associated with our flight plan in here. But they're just referenced. They don't, it's not the actual, you can't pick that, it'll set the altitude. So Janny at 8. So we've got 8,000 MSL, 1,000 feet per minute, 1 mile before Janny. It's telling us we need to begin our descent in 1556. And right now, if we started our descent, 300 feet per minute would be required. So what's going to happen is this will keep increasing until we get to 0, where it should be around 1,000 feet per minute. And you can have a display message, but what I've done is if I go back to the map page, I've made on field 2, so if I just cycle through with the button here, so we got a message, arrival waypoint Sogi, and you can see on the airway, go back to the map, utilities map, you can see we're coming up to Sogi, and and then the airway Victor 386 keeps going left turn to Palmdale. So we're coming up to Sogi. So on the on my map page here for field number 2, so I just hit here, cycle to field 2. I've got my time to top of descent and a vertical speed required to meet that restriction over on the right hand side. So usually what I do is I'm approaching the airport, I'll put this field up for the information for my vertical descent. This plane doesn't fly VNAV, it only gives you information to allow you to manage your descents appropriately. So left track 265, put that in. We're heading around. Good. Okay, so we have our VNAV ready to go. Now on the arrival, if I go back to the charts page here, so right now we're planning Janney. The next restriction is going to be Wabbit Hard at 6, but we have to be Elmer at or above 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Wabbit at 6, and we'll just make sure we don't go below 7 until we pass Elmer, and then we'll use that as a guide to be at Rabbit for 6,000. Then that links up with the approach from that point on. So we'll do a step down after we hit Janney. We'll do our next descent. We'll put in another VNAV profile for our next descent. P's and P's are all looking good. So let's say lots of other features, and we'll just keep going. Let's look at another feature coming up. So we got nothing in our nav aids right now. Let's just say it might be useful to have Palmdale as a VUR. So there's different ways we can get Palmdale. So I can just cursor the map here until we get to Palmdale. There's Palmdale VUR, zoom in, and I can click on that, and you can see waypoint Palmdale. I can click on Palmdale down here. It gives me all the information. So I got Palmdale VORTAC, that's the distance, and there's the frequency. So one thing I can do now is I'm not using anything in nav1. I can just hit frequency. It puts it in the standby, and then I can swap out that and put Palmdale up here. You can see Palmdale VUR, and then now you see the needle jumped around, and I've got the DME, so now I've got actual Palmdale VUR information up there. If I want to identify it, I can go to the audio panel, and I can tune nav1, and I can listen to the idents for Palmdale and make sure they're correct. You can see the idents for Palmdale will be over here. And there's your idents for Palmdale. So should be able to hear that anytime now. And there's other ways you can get that Palmdale information as well. You can go to the nearest VURs and stuff like that. Either way, there's all kinds of ways you can do things in this GTN. It's a great device. And it's very realistic in the sim. Like, to have an old airplane like this with this, it's very common for these old Cessnas to upgrade with this type of GPS system. I think probably the most common upgrade you're going to see on a lot of these older airplanes, like Barons and Cessna 414s and stuff like that. I'm not sure why we haven't heard it yet. Might be just too low. Crank up the volume. That alone for now. Might be able to pick it up, but we do have it identified there. Okay, we'll go back to the map. So let's go back to our fields. We've still got 10 minutes to go. So while we're cruising in here, let's take a look at some other features on the PMS50 GTN. We'll zoom in here, and I'll just keep track of this. I don't think it shows a top of descent point. It'd be nice if it had a top of descent, but we do have that information here. It's in 10 minutes. So let's go to the utilities pages. And so we've looked at VNAV. Next thing is fuel planning. So there is a fuel planning function on here, but I usually use the one on here. So I use sensor data, which gets the sensor information from the airplane. So it's got fuel on board. We got 77. Our fuel flow is 44.5 gallons per hour. Got our ground speed. Right now it's PSP direct Burbank is giving us information for, but we can go present position direct Burbank, and we can also use flight plan mode. So it's going to use our flight plan track. So present position direct Burbank by flight plan, it's going to require 47 gallons, 47.8. Arrival fuel Burbank is going to be 29.1, and reserves will be 45 minutes or 43 minutes. But our range, if we keep cruising at this, is going to be 421 miles with turns of 151. So lots of good information there. So this is a nice utility to have. Next one is our true airspeed utility. So on this airplane, you can see your true airspeed up here. So it's 210, so 225. So I can use sensor data here, and here we're seeing 223 is our true airspeed. So it takes your pressure, altitude, outside air temperature, your track, gets all that information, gives you a true airspeed 224. So that's nice. So you can see that how close it is to what you flight plan. ATC, this is a Navigraph, or sorry, a VATSIM function. So it takes VATSIM ATC and looks at all the VATSIM online ATC. So right now LAX is online. If we were on VATSIM, we could just tune that frequency and put it in standby and then tune up that frequency. So that's a nice feature to have. We're not on VATSIM right now, so I'm not going to use that frequency. ATC, so that's for VATSIM. Flight timers, we can put up a flight timer. You can have a countdown timer. So we got a power on timer. We got departure timer. We've got, and we can set up a countdown timer. So we've got correction up or down. So we can put it in down, preset a timer for 2 minutes, enter, and we can start the timer on a countdown. And we can also put a field up here with that countdown timer as a field as an option as well. So we got timers, checklist we've seen already. So next is a descent approach checklist, so we'll look at that in a minute. The map function, we talked about that. That's a different Navigraph map access you have. So right now we're in the charts mode, and you can see you have all your Navigraph high chart information there. There's the autopilot function. So basically this module may not work or may partially work with some aircraft. Check your documentation, but basically if you don't have a header in here like this airplane does, so I don't use it, but you can actually have a header built within the GPS to select like autopilot, yaw damper, nav, altitude hold, vertical speed. You can control all that stuff within this utility here. So it's basically an autopilot header if you don't have one in your aircraft. And then the next thing is just a log function for the checking out things that are operating within your PMS if you're trying to troubleshoot. So that's all the utilities. System page is where you do all your setup stuff. So you got your system set up. This is where you see your system status, and then you do your setup for your charts, your license, your METAR data. You need to get a code for your METAR data here. And then this is where you set up all your options. So, and you can go through that at your leisure. There's lots of stuff you can set up in there to your liking. And then you got your SimGrief integration, and this is where you set up your checklist. So you download your checklist from the PMS50 site, and then you set them up in here. Okay, so let's go back to our map page on here. Some traffic. Hub RC is 12 miles away, so not too bad. So we got 5 minutes to our top of descent, so let's brief the approach, and then we're all ready for that. So we go back to the charts, pick up our approach, and so we're looking at the RNAV Yankee Alpha 8 Burbank. Course will be 079, the FAF is at Westkey, 2,700 feet, decision altitude is 1086, 341, we can set that. We'll put 341 on our decision altitude. It's VFR there, but we're going to use the approach. Field elevation 778. This approach is climbing 1,200 feet, then right turn 4,600 feet to Costi, then a track 263 to Yoli. So that's published on there. And yeah, so that's it. Minimum safe is 9,800 feet, but we're on the published approach, so that's not a big deal. That's the approach. us all briefed, and yeah, we're going to fly the missed approach, then we're going to go downwind and pick up the ILS, and we'll have a look at how that works. I have a toga button on here. There's a toga button you can push, but I have it mapped to my throttle quadrant, so I'll use that for the go-round. And so I think we're all briefed up for the approach. So our descent's going to happen in 4 minutes. So let's get our descent checklist going. So we'll go to utilities checklist, pressurization. So we're going to set field elevation plus 500 feet. So 700 plus 5, so it's about 1,200 feet. So we're going to put that over here. It's 1,200. So that's set. Fuel selectors are both on the main tank. Set. Mixtures. So mixture is set 1650 EGT minimum. So we're going to leave our mixtures where they are, but you want to monitor them on your descent that you don't go below 1350 here on your EGT. So you want to stay in the green bands here, basically. Altimeters, so let's get the Burbank weather. So we got 3 minutes to go, so we'll go to info, airport, put in Burbank, KBUR, and let's get the weather data. Winds 160 at 8, so a little bit of crosswind. Temperature's 32, 2987, so we'll set that. 2987. So altimeters are set. Avionics, we've loaded the approach. Radar altimeter is set. And next thing is before landing checklists. So we'll go back to our map. Do that by hitting the home button again. So yeah, we're 2 minutes to go to our descent. So everything's looking good. As I said, this is my favorite GA airplane. It's really, really realistic airplane to fly, I find. And combined with these GTNs, I do flights sometimes without them, and I do flights with the standard Asobo GNS 530s as well. So, but the GTN really makes it a great plane for flying around, especially in that sim. It's a very functional system to use. Okay, so another thing I'll show you on the map here. So we'll zoom in. So we're coming in by Puck, Elmer, and then when we get to, this is Wabbit here, it doesn't show up, but that's Wabbit, and then it goes to manual sequence. So if we don't do anything, it's going to go to manual sequence, and then it's just going to keep flying that track outbound for infinity until you do something else. So there's two ways you can do it. You can delete the manual sequence in the flight plans. If I go to the flight plan here, and we cursor down, you can see the manual sequence there. You got Wabbit manual sequence, and then you got the approach rabbit here. So if you delete that, it should cycle through to that rabbit, and then continue on the approach. So when you're clear for the approach, you can do that. Or the other thing you can do is go to the procedure, and you can just activate the approach, and it should go direct to that rabbit for the approach, and then delete the manual sequence. So there's two ways you can do it. We'll have a look at that when we get a little bit closer. Message, arrival at Zoran, probably close to our top of descent, so let's dial down our 8,000 feet. Trying to do as much on here. I do have external device I can do a lot of this on, but I'll try to do as much as I can. So we need to now set 1,000 feet per minute. So go vertical speed, 1,000 feet per minute, and off we go. And I'll bring the power back a little bit so we don't get going too fast here. It's at 25, and I want to watch my EGTs here that they stay in the green, so that looks good. So now we got our descent going, and if we look at the map here and zoom in or zoom out, you can see the banana bar represents our when we're going to hit 8,000 feet, and it's right close to that Janney waypoint, so that looks pretty good. So the descent's looking pretty nice. You can even zoom in. No, the descent bar only shows when you're in map, so we go back. So you can see now, if we're not descending fast enough, we might have to adjust. So we'll just watch this. 1,000 feet's working right now. If we have to go a little bit, increase our descent rate, then we'll just increase it based on what we see here, and we'll just monitor that on the way in. So that's our descent coming in. So what I'm going to do for the approach, and right now let's zoom out on this map and see what we can see. There's still no terrain. We're still quite high. No terrain is showing up. But what I'm going to do for the approach is, once we get clear for the approach, I'll delete that manual sequence waypoint. We'll come in, and then when we cross 6,000 at Wabbit there, I'm going to so I'll bring up the approach here. So the chart, I'm going to put in 2,700 feet as my next altitude, and then I'm just going to use vertical descent, and then you'll see all the altitudes show up on here, and then I'm going to use vertical speed, and I will just adjust vertical speed to make sure I stay above all the altitude restrictions on the way in. And then once I'm in, so we're in on route mode, and then we're going to go to terminal mode, and then it's going to switch over to, I think it's BDS mode, or it's going to be approach mode. I can't remember the mode, but the last mode is approach mode. Then you can arm the approach, but until then I'm just going to have to vertical speed it so we can capture the glide path for the approach. So what I'll do is when we pass Rabbit 6,000, I'll put in 2,700 feet. I'll just use vertical speed, and I'll just monitor my altitude all the way in. So it looks like we got some traffic. There's a guy right there, so he's only 2 miles away. Let's see if we can see who he is. Is he above us or below us? Looks like below us, so might be hard to see. Let's hop outside, see if we can see him. Could be a small plane, so hard to see. Okay, well, we'll just keep an eye out for him. He's a beam us though, so I think we're going to be okay. So, how's the descent looking? Looking pretty good for Janney. We'll go to 1,100 feet per minute, so we'll just bump that up a little bit. We're coming up to a turn, so left to 243. And 1,100 feet's working. Yeah, so we need to be Janney, and then we need to be at Puck 8,000, so we're going to have a level off segment, Elmer 7 or above. So we'll put 6,000 as our next altitude for Wabbit there, and we'll adjust our VNAV for that once we get leveled off. These P's are all looking good. Want to get the Burbank ATIS, quick way to do that would be to, so we'll go down to this, use this page here, so we'll go waypoint info, airport, Burbank, go frequencies, and we'll look at ATIS. There's ATIS, or this ATIS, try that one first. You can see Burbank ATIS, we'll swap it up, but we don't hear anything because we need to monitor the second.
Burbank Airport information, Golf
that's our weather for Burbank. Winds are from the right, out of the south there, so a little bit of a crosswind. There's 10,000 feet. We'll put our landing light on. Looks good for Janney still. We'll increase that descent. Remember, this is a mile before Janney we're planning, so we'll bring that up to 1,200 feet. Bring the power back a little bit. Want to keep our speed under 200 knots here. Yep, so it's looking good for making Janney at 8. Okay, 1,000 to go. Fuel's looking good. We still got 400 pounds of fat fuel, lots of gas. Yeah, I really like flying this plane on VATSIM too with this configuration. You got your traffic, you got your very functional GPS here, so there's really nothing you can't do with this airplane. Okay, we're leveling off. Gonna bring the power up to about 30 manifold. Keep our speed up. It's altitude capture. So let's go to the utilities page again. VNAV. Next target's going to be 6,000 feet, 1,000 feet per minute, mile before Wabbit. So we need to begin that descent in 3 minutes. And right now, if we'd started it, we'd have to do 400 feet per minute. There's a message arriving at Puck. Yeah, so we'll, and we got the 2 minutes and 40 seconds till that descent for Rabbit there. And that should keep us above Elmer. We might even hit Elmer before we get there. Speed is good. See if we're getting any terrain pop up out here. Yeah, so you're starting to see the higher terrain show up here. We got 2 minutes to go to our top of descent. Track is 201. Our heading bug up. We're tracking into Elmer, and that's got the 7,000 feet or above. So yeah, we're definitely not going to have any problem with that. So I'll dial down 6,000, and then we'll be ready to go vertical speed when we hit that top of descent point. Approaching waypoint Elmer. So yeah, that restriction is going to be no problem. So let's say ATC clears us via Wabbit for the RNAV runway 8. So we'll go to the flight plan page here, and you can see right now we're Elmer, and then it's going to go Wabbit manual sequence. So what I'll do is once we get our descent going, I can go to the 2 ways I can do it. I can go to the procedure page, I can activate the approach, and then it's going to go direct to Wabbit and take out that manual sequence. Or I can be in the flight plan page and I can just select manual sequence and remove it, and then it should cycle from Rabbit to the first waypoint on the fix there. So you get rid of the manual sequence. So we'll try deleting the manual sequence. So we need to start our descent now. So we're vertical speed, 1,000 feet per minute. Bring the power back a little bit, watching our temperatures. Bring it back to 20. We don't want to go too fast here. going to go off from Babbitt to the manual sequence, but if I select remove manual sequence, it should cycle through. You should see it curve around. Remove, and there you go. Now it's going to go on right to our approach. So there you go. Got this guy just ahead of us. He's above us. He's only 1.6 miles. Let's see. Tough time seeing the traffic here today. Just going underneath us. Okay, 1,000 feet to go. You can see we're just going to level off of Wabbit there. You can actually increase your mixture a little bit or decrease your mixture to try to get that temperature up. So I'll keep it where it is, but okay, once we capture the altitude, I'll put in 2,700 feet for next altitude, and then we'll start our vertical speed down for the remainder of the approach. So we're 6,000, just coming up on Rabbit, a little bit high, but we're in the ballpark. So I'm going to put 2,700 feet. We never captured the altitude, so that's fine. 2,700, and I'm just going to keep the descent going. Our course is 167. We did capture the altitude, so our vertical speed still will go down now, 1,000 feet per minute. And eventually we'll see our glide path show up over here. So we're still in terminal mode, so I can't arm the approach yet. But I don't want to get too high, so I just want to make sure I don't go below 5,100 feet till I'm past this next waypoint here. So keep an eye on that. Oh, we see our glide path just came in, so we'll arm the approach, but it won't catch her until we switch out of terminal mode here. So glide path is armed, but I'm still in vertical speed down to 2,700 feet. We're going to be okay, 5,100. Then I want to make sure we don't go below 4,200 feet. I'm going to bring the power back so we can get some flap out to help us slow down. Okay, so that altitude's good. Now we're good to 4,200 feet for the next restriction. Message, yep. I want to get below 170 to get some flap out. Actually, I think it might be a little bit. Flap speed is 171, yep. So it's just coming up to flap speed, put the first notch of flap out. Power back a little bit more. Okay, there we go. First notch of flap. Will help keep that speed under control. It's still looking good. We're going to be 4,200 or above there. Got some traffic coming up. Right at Bemis there. Yeah, I can't seem to see any of this traffic. Okay, it's going now to a track 160. Good. Still, glide path is armed. We're just slightly below, but we're going to level off at 2,700 feet. But I can alter the rate of descent there. Speed is good. I'm going to put 079 for our final track. Inbound, so that looks good. And 3,400 feet, I don't want to go below that, so I'm going to reduce the rate of descent a little bit. I'll bring that down to 0. We'll maintain 3,400 until we're by this fix, and then we can go down to 3,000 for the next one. So now we're still in terminal mode, so we should capture, oh, we did capture the glide path, so that's good. So we should get the gear, next stage of flap. See the airport coming in there. Okay, I'm going to put our missed approach altitude since the glide path is captured, and that's 4,600 feet. I'm going to double check on the chart. Yep, 4,600 feet. See all the red coming in there now. So speed's getting a little slow. I want to fly my speed up blue line, which is our best single engine climb speed. So I'll set the power. So let's go to our checklist and utilities checklist. Let's do our, so auxiliary fuel pumps are low, lights 3 green. Lights are good. I got the landing lights on. Wing flaps, they're not quite down. We'll put the final flap in and then we decide to land. Prop sync can go off. Speed is good, just a little bit slow. Propellers, we'll put full forward. And cabin heat, we'll just leave the heat off and the AC off for now. So next is after landing if we need that. So we'll put the map back up there. Passed the FAF, looking good. Pre-landing check is complete, and we're going to do the missed approach at minimums there. There's a guy behind us. Let's just see. It's an airliner. Yeah, see, he's coming in behind us. That's the FSLTL traffic. So hopefully he'll land, or he might go around above us there. But he's definitely going to catch us. That's 2,000 feet. So what I'll do is hit toga. When I hit toga, it will command a pitch and roll for the go around, but it'll stay in that pitch mode, and then I'll have to unsuspend the GPS to get it to pick up the missed approach track. And we'll see that when we get a little bit closer. So speed's good. Props are full, and I'll bring the mixtures full now. Temperatures are in the green there. We've got about 500 feet to go till we conduct the missed approach. Traffic's right on our tail. There he goes. That's the only problem with the FSLTL traffic is there's no control of that. Planes fly right through you. He's probably got a good 25, 30 knots on his final approach speed on us. Okay, we're coming up to minimums. Okay, there's minimums. I'm going to hit toga. Go full power. Gear up. Flaps up one stage. And you see it commands a pitch and roll, so it's climbing away, and you can see I need to get rid of the throttles here, but once we hit the runway waypoint, so I'm climbing away, looks good. Once I hit the runway waypoint, it's going to go into a suspend mode, and for me to pick up the track, I'm going to have to unsuspend it, so it's not going to do, it's going to stay in this pitch and roll attitude until I hit unsuspend. So I go unsuspend, and then you see the magenta line comes active. So above 1,200 feet, it's a right turn to that first waypoint. So we're above 1,200, right turn. And then I'll continue my after takeoff checklist. So we'll get the flaps all the way up. So gear is up, flaps are up. I'll bring my power back to 3,500. Set our props at 2,500, and we'll get our track set. So we're looking for a track of 209. And you see it's just in pitch mode right now, so if I want to climb at a different mode, I can go to indicated airspeed, and I'll climb at 120 knots. got GPS indicated airspeed mode, 130 knots, that looks good. We're on our track at 209, and we're climbing up to 4,600 feet. Zoom out, and we're going to continue on. We're not going to go all the way, we're going to set up for the ILS approach before we get there, so we'll just continue that, but let's do a after takeoff checklist. So we go to checklist. The next checklist was going to be a landing checklist, after landing checklist, which we didn't do, so we can go back to the menu, we can go normal checklists, and we can go back to our after takeoff checklist, and we can just repeat these items. So gears up, yaw damper is on, fuel pumps, they're still in low, ice protection is not required, landing taxi light we'll leave as is, prop sync is off, so after takeoff checklist is complete. And our climb checklist will do that, power is set, fixtures we'll leave full, cowl flaps we'll leave them open, and heat pressurization is good, oxygen's good, and altimeters we'll leave them set, so that looks good. So that's our checklist. So continue on our missed approach here. It's going to go off onto that hole, and next we'll look up for the next approach we're going to do is probably the ILS approach for that runway. So I'll just get my heading bug centered here. There's 4,600 feet. I'll bring my power back. I'll leave props at 2,500. I'll bring my power back to 30. Don't need to get going too fast here. Okay, and we'll level off and we'll continue on that track. So next, let's go look up what approach we can do for the next approach. We'll go back. Oops. Charts. We'll call up approach. Pick the ILS Yankee runway 8. And we'll zoom in. So let's see what fixes we can do that by. So we can do it via Silex for a full procedure turn. So we can go direct to Silex, do full procedure turn, come back in for the ILS. And that looks like it's by the Van Nuys transition. So let's load that in. So we're back to procedure. So now we need to put in a new procedure. So we're going right to a track of 64. So the approach we're going to do is the ILS Yankee. I believe it was, yep. And we're going to do the transition either by Silex or Van Nuys. I think there's a good one that has Silex in it, so we can use that. So we don't want to load it because the only option is load and activate it. It's going to go straight to Van Nuys. So once we get on this track, we're going to sync up our heading, and then I'm going to load the heading to stay on that. So once we're now on our track, you can see all the waypoints there. So that's got the procedure turn, hold and do procedure turn, so that looks good. So that's everything there is ready to go. So we'll go back to our map mode. And so I want to stay in this track, so I'm going to go and heading select. And then I'm going to go back to the procedure. And so now I can load and activate that procedure. So now I go back to the map, and you can see it's got direct to, but I want to go direct to Silex for the full procedure turn. So say ATC clears us direct Silex. So now I go to my flight plan page over here. I go Silex, direct to, and I activate direct to Silex. You can see it activates direct to Silex. So now I go back to nav, and then now we're going into Silex, and then we can now check the procedure turn. So our track is 333, and we're going to Silex. And let's go back to the chart and look up at the approach for the chart here. So let's zoom in on this. So this approach is going to be the ILS for runway 8 via Silex for full procedure. Course is going to be 079, so we'll put that in once we get inbound. We need 1095, so we'll put that frequency in, 1095, transfer that in, that's for the ILS. You'll see the ILS for runway 8 is good. Crossing the path at 2753 down to minimums of 1555, which is 800, and it's pretty high for that. Geez, the GPS is even better than the ILS, probably because of obstacles. So we'll put 828 roughly there. Airport elevation is 727, and the missed approach is climbed to 1800 feet. Then right turn 4600 feet, heading 2612 VTU VOR, and then hold as published. So what we're going to do is we're going to fly to Silex. Once we're over Silex, we can descend down to 4,000 feet for the procedure turn. And you can see the procedure turn is going to go Silex outbound, do a teardrop procedure turn back to Silex. We go down to 4,000 feet, we'll maintain that. Once we're inbound, we go down to 3,700 feet, and then down to 3,000 before the path there, and then do the ILS from there. So that's going to be the approach we're going to be doing. So message approaching waypoint Silex. Let's just zoom in and see. So it should hit Silex and do the procedure turn, come back outbound, and then continue inbound. So that was pretty good. So that's the approach briefing complete. We have our nav aid set. So we're going to do it in GPS, and then we need to flip over to Borloke here for once we inbound from the procedure turn. Okay, so we hit the path, turning outbound. Let's do our approach checklist, make sure we got everything done there. So we'll go utilities checklist, next checklist, cruise is done, approach checklist. So pressurization we still have set, fuel selectors are still in the main tank, mixtures are all full right now and in the green. The temperatures, altimeters are set, avionics are set, we've loaded up the approach, and we have the radio tune identified, 1095. Radar altimeter is set. And next is going to be before landing checklist. So our track now is 079 for the approach, so we'll put that in. And it should just fly the procedure turn. So left hockey stick back in to rejoin at Silex. And then we can switch over to Borloke and then fly the ILS from there. Surprised we're not going head-to-head with any traffic on this approach. Yeah, I don't see anybody down in this direction. Flying a procedure turn. Oh yeah, we can descend down to 4,000 feet, so let's do that. The procedure turn, so 4,000 feet, set, vertical speed. Put down at 500 feet per minute, bring the power back a little bit, just make sure we keep our temperature in the green. stay inbound on an inbound track, so we'll maintain 4,400. Once we're inbound, we go down to 3,000 feet. Yeah, if you were doing a straight-in transition, I think you can go down to 3,700 feet when you're inbound, but procedure turn altitude is 4,000. Oh, the procedure turn altitude is 4,000 feet. Yeah, we could have done that. I think the original was the original crossing altitude for Silex. That's fine, we'll stay where we are. Okay, I'm going to get some flap out the first stage so we can keep our speed under control in the descent there. Get a little bit of power up. Try to keep around 150 for now. Okay, so we're inbound. Then I'm going to switch over to Warlock, and then we'll arm the approach. You can stay at this altitude and just intercept the glide path if it's coming in there. So go to Warlock. Glide path just coming in. I can arm the approach. Yeah, we'll just stay at this altitude and intercept the glide slope from here. That'll work out fine. Okay, glide slope's captured, low glide slope's captured. Just continuing on the approach. If we were above the glide slope, we could have descended down to 3,000 to catch it. Okay, I'm going to bring the power back a little bit. Try to keep it in the green there. Speed's good. Still got gear and approach flap to go. Safe taxi, and it's going to bring up the if you have NavGraph subscription, it'll bring up the taxi chart from NavGraph from the VFR map mode, and it's a nice feature to have. It zooms right in, shows you all the taxiways, and you set that speed in the settings for Safe Taxi. Approaching waypoint Betty. Good. Okay, so we're 1,000 feet below that altitude, but we've captured the glide slope, so I'm going to put in our missed approach altitude since we need that, so back to 4,600 feet. And I'll start configuring the airplane, so gear down. Below 140, we can put in the next stage of flap. Speed's good. Stage of flap. There's 3 stages of flaps on this. Normally I keep the first 2. You can go stage 3 below 140, but I usually keep just use the first 2, second notch of flaps, and then on the approach, and then when the landing is assured, I'll select full flap. So I want to keep speed above my blue line here. And let's do our landing checklist. So checklist. Before landing, so auxiliary fuel pumps are low, they're still low, just double check, yep. Gear position 3 green, flaps, so we've got flaps 10, but we'll go flaps full when we landing is assured. Prop sync is off, and propellers full forward, and cabin heat we'll just leave off, so that's the checklist complete. Speed is looking good. Okay, props are full. I'll put these back up. Props are full, mixtures are full. Coming up on our decision height, but we'll say the field is visual when we're going to land this time. Yeah, the thing I like about this airplane is a challenging airplane to fly compared to like the DA62, which is more automated, no mixtures, no props, just throttles, very simple airplane to fly compared to this airplane. This one's a bit more challenging. Speed's good. Just come up to minimums and we'll continue. Slight crosswind from the right. Okay, there's minimums, continue. Okay, I'll disengage the autopilot, flight director, yaw damper are all off. Let the speed bleed off a little bit. Okay, landing short, we get the full flap in. Bit of trim. Descent going. Speed bleed off. Feel that crosswind from the right there. Bring the power back. Nicely. There's touchdown. Okay, get on the brakes, checking the brakes. There's that safe taxi coming up. Safe taxiway, so I'm not going to make this taxiway. I'll go through and get off on the next one there. Oh, welcome to Burbank. Oh, I'm finally hearing those idents. Okay, we'll taxi clear the runway. Set the parking brake. Get our flaps up. Lane light on. Off. Strobe light off. Taxi lights on. You see the safe taxi shows a nice taxi route here, so we're going to go across here and then taxi into the FBO. So that safe taxi is good. I can hear those idents now, which are annoying, so we'll go back to the auto panel. We'll shut those off. Wonder why they just started coming on now. Could be a bug. Okay, so yeah, we can probably do our next checklist, which is the after landing checklist. So next checklist, this is after landing. So auxiliary pumps, they can go off. They are off. Cowl flaps are open. They're still open. Wing flaps are up. Lights are as required. Altimeter, we can put it to 0. Zero ice protection is off, and that's it. Next is shutdown. So we'll taxi into the FBO and shut her down. Yeah, so overall, this is a great airplane to fly, and the GTN is a great system for quite a few different airplanes. Like I said, I use this in the King Air, Black Square King Air, the Baron, and you can replace it in a lot of G1000 aircraft. Clear to the right, clear to the left. Yeah, so great device to have, great add-on for the sim. Totally worth it if you do a lot of GA flying. I would highly recommend it. And good support on their, they have a Discord site where you can get great support, and yeah, overall a great product. I highly recommend it. Okay, there's the FBO. We're going to park over there to the right. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed today's flight. Again, if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button, like, share, sign up for notifications, and see videos like this when I put them out in the future. And the 414 is a great aircraft too. Highly recommend that if you like good twin-engine GA aircraft. Again, they're always updating the software for this aircraft too. So, well, at least it's not 45 degrees here. Okay, we'll come to a stop. Set the parking brake. Okay, we'll say it's been cooled down for enough, and we'll just bring our mixtures to cutoff. Get our mags off. Alternators off. Yeah, we'll get the avionics off. Lights off. And I think that's about it, and we'll finish up with the battery off. We'll open the doors, let everybody out, put in the chocks, get the doors open, the locker open. Good. Well, there you go. Welcome to Burbank. That was a great flight. I know the video was a little long, but there's so much to cover with this GTN. I think we covered quite a bit. I know I haven't gotten everything, but I think you'll be able to see quite a bit of functionality with this system. Great add-on to the sim. Again, thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed today's flight, and we'll see you next time on the Bandit Flysimware channel. Take care. Bandit out.